Welcome back to our news bulletin. The US has recorded its lowest daily death toll from the coronavirus in 3 weeks, with 1,258 fatalities in the past 24 hours. The total number of deaths in the country has surged past 51,000. Worldwide, the virus has killed over 195,000 people and infected almost 2.8 million so far. Further details in this report.
The coronavirus pandemic continues to take thousands of lives daily as under economic pressure, governments across the world consider easing the restrictions. In the US, every 1 in 6 workers are out of the job, which has forced several states to take tentative steps and reopening businesses despite concerns. Meanwhile, US President Donald Trump left the daily media briefing without taking any questions over criticism on suggesting disinfectants as a treatment. Trump said he was being sarcastic when he raised the possibility of injecting disinfectants inside people's bodies to fight coronavirus.
Because when they say that something will last 3 or 4 hours or 6 hours, but if the sun is out or if they use disinfectant, it goes away in less than a minute. Did you hear about this yesterday? But I was asking a sarcastic and a very sarcastic question to the reporters in the room about disinfectant on the inside. But it does kill it, and it would kill it on the hands, and that would make things much better.
The Czech Republic has eased lockdown restrictions after a drop in new cases sparked optimism. Belgium has also announced a detailed plan to gradually lift country's COVID-19 restrictions. Meanwhile, the World Health Organization said the agency is teaming up with countries and partners to accelerate work on drugs and a vaccine. Joining hands with the WHO, Germany said all new vaccines, diagnostics, and treatments must be made equally available to everyone globally.
I agree with the UN Secretary General that a vaccine is a global common good, and producing it and then sharing it around the world. It would be a large, powerful effort when we get this vaccine. So we are supporting with our full efforts the conference on May 4th.
In the meantime, Sri Lanka has reimposed a countrywide 24-hour curfew after a surge in the number of infections.
China has sent the second sortie of medical aid to Pakistan as the number of coronavirus cases in the country crosses 12,000. According to the military's media wing, medical relief items include PCR testing kits, masks, and ventilators. Another team of Chinese doctors has already reached Islamabad. The ISPR said the team will stay in Pakistan for 2 months and will assist Pakistan in its fight against the pandemic. Meanwhile, the Chinese ambassador in Pakistan, Yao Jing, said Beijing is standing with Islamabad in this crisis. Pakistan has reported 256 deaths from the disease, while over 2,700 have recovered. State Health Minister Zafar Mirza said 79% of all coronavirus cases in Pakistan have been locally transmitted, while 21% are imported infections. Indian forces have martyred another 3 youths in the Pulwama district of occupied Kashmir. Police said the Kashmiris were killed during a cordon and search operation in the Avantipora city of the district. The occupation forces also killed 2 civilians in Kolgam district yesterday and 4 in Shopian districts on Wednesday. Total 9 Kashmiris have been martyred this week. Indian troops have killed 96 Kashmiris, including 3 women, during the ongoing 8-month-long siege in the valley. The occupied territory is reeling under New Delhi's crushing curfew and communications blackout for the past 265 days. The Taliban say they are still committed to Doha peace deal despite hindrances created by the Afghan government. In a statement, the group said the Kabul administration has demanded ceasefire despite the continuation of attacks against them. The Taliban said under the deal, a ceasefire will be implemented only after prisoners' release and the start of intra-Afghan talks. The group said it believes the sole path towards a resolution is to implement the agreement as sequenced phase by phase. The Taliban statement comes after US Special Envoy Zalmay Khalilzad echoed NATO's call for peace in Afghanistan. Khalilzad said the bloc statement focused on violence reduction, end of a political feud, and fight against COVID-19. The envoy asked the Taliban and the Afghan government to move more quickly on the release of prisoners. Turkey's defense ministry says its forces have killed 12 Kurdistan Workers' Party militants in northern Iraq. In a tweet, the ministry said one soldier was killed and 3 others wounded in an attack on a military base in the Haftanin region. Earlier, Turkish troops killed 20 PKK militants in northern Syria. The fighters were killed while trying to infiltrate the Operation Peace Spring zone across Turkey's southern border. Ankara said it will not stop the operations against militants in the region. Turkey holds the PKK responsible for the deaths of some 40,000 people in a 30-year terror campaign. In Libya, Khalifa Haftar's forces have killed 3 civilians in an attack in Tripoli on the first day of the holy month of Ramadan. A spokesman for the UN-backed government said the rocket attack on a civilian settlement in the Anzac region left 3 others wounded. Last week, government forces launched a military operation to recapture Terhuna. The town is Haftar's last major stronghold in the area surrounding Tripoli. Government forces have been under attack by the warlords militia since April 2019, with over 1,000 killed in the violence. The Libyan government launched Operation Peace Storm on March 26 to counter attacks on the capital. The foreign ministers of Germany, France, Italy and the EU have made a joint call for a humanitarian truce in Libya. In a joint statement, the ministers said all sides must get inspiration from the holy Ramadan and resume peace talks for a ceasefire. The statement said Europe wants to unite its voice to those of the UN and its Libya representative in their call for a truce in the country. On Thursday, the UN said Libya is turning into an experimental field for all kinds of new weapons systems. It called for all countries to respect the arms embargo reached at Berlin conference in January. Tripoli's government of national accord has been battling Eastern commander Khalifa Haftar since the fall of dictator Muammar Gaddafi in 2011. Iran's President Hassan Rouhani has called his armed forces to seek regional stability while maintaining vigilance in the region. President's statement comes amid an escalating war of words with the US. State media quoted Rouhani as saying Tehran must maintain an authoritative presence in the Gulf region. On Thursday, head of Iran's elite Revolutionary Guard said Tehran would destroy US warships if its security is threatened in the Gulf. This came a day after President Donald Trump warned Tehran over harassment of US vessels. Meanwhile, the UK expressed concern over Iran's launch of a military satellite using ballistic missile technology. A British office spokesperson said the launch is inconsistent with the 2015 UN Security Council resolution. However, Iranian Foreign Minister Javad Zarif reiterated Tehran's position that its missiles are not designed to carry nuclear arms. The Pakistan Navy conducted successful anti-ship missile demonstrations from multiple launch platforms on Saturday. Navy spokesperson Rear Admiral Arshad Javed says the missiles were fired from surface ships as well as fixed and rotary wing aircraft. The live fire drill used a decommissioned surface ship as a target. The exercise was observed by Navy Chief Admiral Zafar Masood. Speaking after the demonstration, Admiral Masood said, "The Pakistan Navy is ready to thwart any aggression against Pakistan." However, the Navy did not give any details on the kind of missile used in the demonstration. We have a lot more coming up right after this short break, so stay tuned. Welcome back. Environmentalists have warned the fight against the COVID-19 pandemic must not deprioritize the war on climate change. Unfortunately, that's exactly what is happening in Indian-occupied Kashmir, where the authorities have ordered the cutting down of tens of thousands of trees in a bid to stop allergies during the viral outbreak. Does this move make any sense? Find out in this report.
New Delhi has turned occupied Kashmir into the world's biggest prison after illegally revoking Article 370. Now, the authorities in the valley have taken another controversial decision of cutting down thousands of poplar trees, fearing a convergence of respiratory allergies amid the global pandemic. Environmentalists and doctors assert that the tree's pollen and seeds do not present a respiratory threat bigger than other spring blooming plants. They warn widespread forest degradation may in fact be the bigger threat.
I am just reproducing and health experts' view that it is not causing any allergy. But it is simple and myth now carried over the years that it causes the allergy, but it has not been proved.
Poplar wood is also used to make everything from wooden fruit crates to plywood and pencils. The breed has also been widely used to restore degraded areas.
It's a 600 crore rupees industry. We should look at from it that our food industry tomorrow must not get affected, because you have to carry the food boxes all across the country, even it's to be exported. So you have to then think an alternative for this thing once you will go for the extraction or completely from your ecosystem. So it is to be given a due thought process.
There are about 328 confirmed cases of COVID-19 and 5 deaths in the valley. Due to the curfew that has been in place since August 2009, people are forced to seek treatment in makeshift facilities.
In India, a group of 69 COVID-19 patients were left stranded outside a hospital in northern state of Uttar Pradesh. The patients transferred from Agra city of state were seen sitting on footpath outside closed door of a hospital. The locals said patients were without any protective gear and were wearing only masks. Meanwhile, India reported 1,752 new cases of coronavirus, the highest single-day spike in the country. The Home Ministry said curfew violation by public in different parts of the country is a major reason for spike in infections. The country has recorded 775 deaths and over 24,500 coronavirus infections so far. Bangladesh has refused to allow some 500 Rohingya refugees stranded on fishing boats in the Bay of Bengal to come ashore. In a briefing, Foreign Minister Abdul Momen said that the stranded Rohingya refugees are not Dhaka's responsibility. He said the refugees are in the deep sea and not even in the country's territorial waters. Momen said that only a few weeks ago, Bangladesh rescued nearly 400 Rohingya people from a vessel. He said the country is running out of its generosity as it has already taken over 1 million Rohingya people. The refugees included women and children fleeing the Myanmar military's atrocities. North Korean leader Kim Jongun is reportedly receiving treatment after undergoing a cardiovascular procedure earlier this month. There were speculations over Kim's health following his absence from a key anniversary event. North Korea marked the anniversary of the birthday of its founding father, Kim Il-sung, as a national holiday on April 15th, but Kim was not seen in attendance at the event. According to a website run by North Korean defectors, Kim is recovering after getting the procedure on April 12th at a hospital in the East Coast. It's reported that Kim's health has deteriorated in recent months due to heavy smoking, obesity, and overwork. Meanwhile, British media reports suggest a team of Chinese doctors has been sent to North Korea to treat its leader. Reporting from inside North Korea is notoriously difficult, especially on matters concerning the country's leadership. Japan is investigating a virus outbreak among the crew of a cruise ship which docked in Nagasaki in January. 150 out of 623 crew members of the Costa Atlantica have tested positive so far. Head of the regional government's health and welfare department said picture will only get clearer once they get all the samples. He said with limited resources, it is difficult to maintain and control the health of crew members. The ship had no passengers on board and was diverted to Nagasaki for repairs rather than China due to the virus outbreak. The crew were meant to have been confined to the ship, but local media reports some left the vessel. All crew have been tested as the Nagasaki Medical Association declared it a medically critical situation. The number of COVID-19 cases in Africa has risen to over 29,000, whereas the recoveries have reached 8,300. In an update, Africa Centers for Disease Control and Prevention said the new death toll now stands at 1,331. North Africa remains the hardest hit region of the continent, followed by West, Southern, East and Central. The highest number of fatalities has also been recorded in North, West and Southern Africa, with the lowest figures in Central and East Africa. South Africa has 4,200 COVID-19 cases, Egypt has 4,100, Morocco 3,800 and Algeria 3,100. Algeria has the highest death toll of 415, followed by Egypt with 294, Morocco with 158 and South Africa with 75. The two countries with the highest case to population ratio are Djibouti and Ethiopia. The World Health Organization says there is currently no evidence that people recovered from COVID-19 are safe from reinfection. In a scientific brief, the UN agency warned governments against issuing immunity passports or risk-free certificates to once infected people. It said it could not be guaranteed that people who have antibodies are immune to the novel coronavirus. The WHO said the practice could actually increase the risk of continued spreads, as recovered people may ignore precautionary advice. The global health body said it continued to review the evidence on antibody responses to the virus. Some 2.8 million people have been infected by the coronavirus globally, and nearly 200,000 have died. All the best minds in the world are working round the clock to tackle the ongoing pandemic. This includes the scientists at NASA who have designed a new ventilator specifically designed for COVID-19 patients. The new device, called Ventilator Intervention Technology Accessible Locally or VITAL, is currently waiting for the FDA's approval. According to NASA, its design is geared towards dealing with patients who have milder symptoms. This eases the pressure on supplies of ICU ventilators that can be diverted towards more serious cases. NASA has also offered the US government its AmbuState technology, which is used to sterilize spacecraft.
Here's what this does. We took that technology to sterilize a spacecraft, and we said, how do we use it to sterilize the inside of a room? And that's what this device is, AmbuStat. So think of it as a fogger. It will fog the room, and every surface in the room will then be sterilized. No coronavirus.
Belgian Prime Minister Sophie Wilms has announced a detailed plan to gradually lift the country's COVID-19 restrictions, but Wilms cautioned that nothing is set in stone. Under new rules, all shops will be allowed to open their doors again from 11th May. The schools will be allowed to reopen the following week, albeit with a cap on public members in each class. Cafes and restaurants will not be permitted to open before 8th June. The first businesses to open will be fabric shops on 4th May. More than 45,000 people have tested positive for the virus in Belgium. Over 6,900 deaths have been recorded in the nation of 11.4 million, the highest rate per capita in Europe. The UK and EU have failed to bridge differences over future competition, showing no sign of progress towards a deal on post-Brexit relationship. The EU's chief negotiator Michel Barnier said UK set a tight deadline by ruling out an extension to the Brexit transition period beyond the end of 2020. In a statement, Barnier said the UK cannot impose this very short calendar for negotiations. He said at the same time, Britain is not moving or progressing on certain subjects that are important for the European Union.
Made no progress on fisheries.
The United Kingdom cannot decide that there will be no extension of negotiations, as it is still possible until June 30th. So impose this very rigorous calendar, an exceptional one for such an important negotiation. Never in history has Europe negotiated with a third-party country an agreement, be it just a commercial one. But here we are, far beyond trade only in such a short time. So the United Kingdom cannot impose this very short calendar for negotiations, and at the same time not move, not progress on certain subjects that are important for the European Union.
Alors même que dans le traité.
The International Atomic Energy Agency says radiation from fires around Ukraine's defunct Chernobyl nuclear plant poses no risk to human health. The UN Atomic Agency said it has based its assessment on data provided by Kiev. In a statement, the IAEA said the recent fires near the plant have not led to any hazardous increase of radioactive particles in the air. The Vienna-based agency said the increase in levels of radiation was very small. It said despite minor increases, the concentration of radioactive materials in the air remains below Ukraine's radiation safety norms. Last week, the main fire among several blazes was extinguished, but smaller fires are still burning in the exclusion zone around the plant. Environmental activists say the burning of contaminated trees could disperse radioactive particles, posing a health risk. The motive of Canada's mass shooting has revealed, as police say the gunman began the rampage after his girlfriend escaped from his assaults. Police said the individual woman is currently recovering from her injuries and cooperating with the authorities. Police said after the woman escaped, it was a catalyst to start the chain of events. But police said they are also open to all possibilities that there was premeditated planning also involved. On Sunday, a gunman dressed as a policeman went on a 12-hour shooting rampage in the eastern province of Nova Scotia, killing 22 people. The 51-year-old suspected shooter was killed by the police and was identified as Gabriel Watman, who worked as a denturist. Australia and New Zealand have marked the Anzac Day at driveways after the public was urged to pay tribute to military personnel amid coronavirus pandemic. The Remembrance Day is a hugely important event for both nations. People held private ceremonies in driveways and on balconies as traditional memorials were cancelled for the first time in decades due to pandemic. The day usually has dawn services to commemorate the battle on the Gallipoli Peninsula in Turkey during World War I. In a statement, New Zealand's Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern said people cannot join in person, but in the spirit to remember national heroes. Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison urged people to honour those who served in the country's military in whatever way they can. Meanwhile, Australia has again closed beaches to the public after people failed to adhere to social distancing orders. A Russian unmanned supply ship has been docked with the International Space Station. Progress 75 cargo ship arrived at the station 3 hours later to deliver supplies to the 6 crew members of Expedition 63. According to the state media, the cargo craft carried water, oxygen, fuel and dry cargo, including oranges, grapefruits and sausages. It said the Soyuz rocket was dubbed the Victory Rocket in tribute to the 75th anniversary of Russia's victory in World War II. The cargo spacecraft will remain docked with the space station for about 7 months. It is scheduled to leave the orbiting laboratory in December, at which point it will burn up in Earth's atmosphere. Muslims around the world are observing the holy month of Ramadan, traditionally a time of dawn to dusk fasting, festivities and communal prayers. But this year, a global pandemic has changed the celebration in unprecedented ways. New Jersey is no different. Muslim families are having iftar dinner without festivity and gatherings. Further details in this report.
Sharing the Ramadan joy, seeing all family and the community is very common in the holy month of Ramadan. But widespread novel coronavirus lockdowns have made this Ramadan difficult for Muslims. When Lafta Mansoor Auda's family, who runs a restaurant in New Jersey, sat down to their iftar dinner, it was different than in years past.
Unlike before, when you go to meet a friend for iftar or go somewhere to spend time for having a seher meal, it's very limited. all the post-iftar activities will be changed. No praying in the mosque, no tarawih and no fajr prayers. You have to do it in the house, and you can't even do it with a friend. It has to be in your house.
كلها صارت شكل آخر.
Others' family work together at their own restaurant, but this time they are the only people in the restaurant in compliance with stay-at-home orders.
The difference this year is there won't be any customers because of the protection instructions. We will provide orders through delivery or pickup service. The customer can come and pick it up.
Anwar says these are sad circumstances, but still she wants to be optimistic.
I hope to see an end to the epidemic and see life back to normal as it was before. Beautiful. We used to be busy with the customers in these days of Ramadan. These circumstances are sad circumstances, but we have to be optimistic, and inshallah this ordeal will reach its end and life will be beautiful again, and we'll see our customers having iftar with us.
Curbs on large gatherings for prayers and public iftars or meals to break the fast has dampened the festivities of Ramadan.
As the Muslims around the world welcome Ramadan during the coronavirus crisis, mosques stand empty and fast-breaking feasts are cancelled. In Brazil, prayer leaders known as imams have turned to social media to mark the holiest month of the Muslim calendar. This report will now tell you more.
This year, Ramadan has come amid social distancing measures, forcing Muslims to break their fast without relatives and friends. But to enjoy the month in its spirits, imams at mosques in Brazilian cities of Foz do Iguaçu and Sao Paulo have arranged online sermons. Prayer leaders have advised people to stay at home and not put their lives at risk.
Unfortunately, because of the pandemic and with religious teachings, we could not put lives at risk. We cannot put health in danger. Activities that we do collectively as a group, normally in the mosques, continue to be suspended.
Ramadan usually fills these mosques with swaths of believers. This year, imams say they are trying to send out these prayers' spirituality within the homes of people.
This year we're doing these social media lives, using this tool to take spirituality to the homes of people, to live in the spirit of the month of Ramadan, so that these important prayers are part of the Ramadan month. It is so people are not left with nothing. We're trying to send out this spirituality, these prayers within the homes of people.
In Foz do Iguaçu, footages of believers revealing the smiles under their face masks are interspersed with the message, "We are together." These messages are also broadcasted on the exterior of a local mosque.
In Mexico, grappling with COVID-19, authorities have made the phrases "wash your hands" and "stay at home" their mantras. But that is easier said than done for those mired in poverty without access to clean water. More in this report.
In a modest community built on a former Mexico City dump, women gather on a rusty road to fill buckets from a water tanker truck. Adriana Valencia, who lives in a home perched on an arid hilltop, says trucks deliver water only once every 8 days.
We recycle water for the bathroom, to clean the dishes, water the plants. I try to save some until the truck comes every 8 days.
Residents complain the plastic barrels used to store water are sometimes home to worms. Even neighbors lucky enough to have running water says it was flowing yellow and murky of late. Many of them are out of work and short of cash and say they must often buy bottled water for personal use.
The truth is we have to continue using it, but we have to continue buying it. Because if the water truck does not come, it costs us 15 pesos. We have to buy it anyway because I have to have water.
In a 2017 report, the UN said Mexico had the highest per capita consumption of bottled water in the world, with 127 gallons a year. Meanwhile, in the same year, a government survey said in Mexico City, only 79% of households have a daily water supply. The study found that 11% of homes receive water 2 or fewer times a week.
We have a lot more coming up right after this short break, so stay tuned. The US says the new trade agreement between America, Canada, and Mexico will come into effect a month later than initially proposed. US Trade Representative Robert Lighthizer said he has notified Congress that the new agreement will enter into force on July 1st. In a statement, Lighthizer said both Mexico and Canada have taken measures necessary to comply with their commitments under the deal. Lighthizer said the crisis from the COVID-19 pandemic shows the U.S. should increase manufacturing capacity and investment in North America. He said in that effort, the agreement's entry into force is a landmark achievement. The announcement comes after reports last month that the Trump administration was considering a June 1st start date. France has prepared a historic package of multi-billion-dollar loans to help car maker Renault and flag carrier Air France through the coronavirus crisis. Finance Minister Bruno Le Maire announced $7.6 billion for Air France and $5.4 billion for Renault. Maire said the package was needed to save Air France amid crisis. He said, among other conditions, the airline will have to notably improve its environmental credentials. The minister said Air France will receive $3 billion in loans and another $4 billion in state-guaranteed funds. Major world airlines have halted passenger traffic, but they still have to pay to park and maintain grounded planes. Now let's look at the weather from around the globe. This is all for now. For the latest updates, you can follow us on social media at indus.news.